Good evening, everybody. This is AJ Woodson. This is Black Westchester presents the People Before Politics radio show, the pre-primary edition. I am your host, AJ Woodson. My partner, Damon K. Jones, will be joining us shortly. Our two guests are candidates running in the Democratic primary on Tuesday. New York 17 Congressional Candidate Mondaire Jones, who is with us right now, and Westchester District Attorney candidate Mimi Roker, who will be joining us around 6:45, maybe 7-ish. So before I get into the show, there's a couple of things I definitely want to say. Shout out to as we're coming up on this election, we just had an election for school board and for library trustee. Mount Vernon, I just want to congratulate Brenda L. Crump, a longtime friend of the show, Cynthia Turnquest Jones, another longtime friend of the show, and R&B legend Jeff Fred. They are your new Mount Vernon School Board trustees. And shout out to Caitlin Gleason and Hope Marable, who won for the library, Mount Vernon Public Library trustees election. So I just want to shout out them. There's been a lot of stuff going on. I have not shared this yet. I need to start sharing this. I'll wait till Damien gets on. Let me share it in a couple of groups real quick. I want to shout out, I want to also shout out again, and I said this on a few shows, I want to shout out all of the young people that are out there protesting, peacefully protesting. This is literally, I'm 54, and I keep saying this, I was 2 when Martin Luther King was killed, which was the last major protest of this sort that I can recall. So this is like the first time in my life, cities in every one of the 50 states, over 20 countries. But I want to encourage those. What's up, Damon? I want to encourage.
What's happening, man?
I want to encourage all of those protesting to not give up. Just because that president signed that little executive order thing or whatever that was, that's not really worth the paper it's written on. We are fighting for the change of legislation for police crimes overall, and you have their attention. Please do not give up. Do not give in. Continue to fight. I am proud of all of y'all out there fighting, and I just wanted to get that in. Of course, my partner in crime, Damon K. Jones, has joined us. You want to say a few words to the people real quick?
What's happening, everybody? Mondaire, what's happening? Thank you for coming, man. I appreciate you coming for us to get the last push out. I saw that you was up in the polls. That's a great thing. That's good. People are coming around and people are getting the message, man. And you and Mimi, I think for Westchester, it's the way we could go about change. I think that's what y'all guys was needed in those offices. So, thank you for coming on last minute. But we definitely wanted to showcase both of y'all guys, and so people. I know they started early voting, but I know a lot of people are going to vote on the 23rd. So we want to make sure that people see your face and know your name. And when they go into the voting booth, put a circle or X or color the square, circle, whatever they do.
X marks a square. No.
Exactly. Make sure it's you, man. So I thank you. And as AJ was saying, we have an opportunity for change now. We're the change that we've been looking for, and we could do it through the vote, the process, right? We could start the process through the vote, man. And we wanted to make sure, with no bones about it, White Plains, Greenburgh, Elmsford, the 23rd. If you go out there, man, vote for Mondaire Jones. He has been steadfast and giving a constant message. And that message is in line with what we need to get done today down in Washington, D.C., man. So thank you, brother. And the floor is yours, man.
And I just want to say one more time, and for those Mimi will be with us somewhere around 6:45, 7ish. She
Okay.
has something previous to do, but she will
Okay.
be joining us. So if you're looking for her, she is coming. And my brother Mondaire, man, just this is a last look at the candidate before the election, 2 days before the election. People have seen you. We've interviewed you very early on. You're one of the first we interviewed, and we went through all the other candidates. Tell the people why they should vote for you. Well, first off, let's start beginning. Who is Mondaire? Not the candidate, the person. You know, we always hear about who the candidate is. Who's Mondaire Jones, the person? Let's get to know the person.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and you know, I'm always happy to be on this show. This is home for me, right? These are my folks.
Exactly.
And I'm grateful to anyone who's tuning in right now live or who will be watching this, especially before June 23rd, which is the last day to vote in person. Amen. Mondaire Jones is a kid who grew up in Section 8 housing and on food stamps, and whose young single mother still had to work multiple jobs just to put food on the table for us. And so when we talk about things like a $15 minimum wage being absolutely necessary at the federal level, that is a need I know to exist firsthand from watching my mom struggle to be the incredible provider that she was. And of course, so many women all throughout our district, our New York 17th Congressional District, I should say, which consists of parts of central and northern Westchester and all of Rockland County. And all throughout this country, they've been doing that forever. And so my mom also got help raise me from my grandparents. My grandfather was a janitor, and my grandmother cleaned homes. And when daycare was too expensive, she took me to work with her. And now I get to run to represent the same people whose homes, our community. I was able to make it to Stanford University to work in the Obama administration at the Justice Department on criminal justice reform before it was popular to do so. You know, it didn't take national protests and unrest over the past 2 or 3 weeks for me to center criminal justice reform and policing reform and racial justice in my campaign. And it should not have been. And I was the only person who had it on his website, frankly, before the events of this month. I think that's pretty telling and really demonstrates what I want people in office for whom policy is personal. When I was growing up, no one ever told me I'd be a member of Congress. I don't come from money or from a political family. In fact, growing up, I never imagined that somebody like me could be in Congress. And now to be, you know, I guess according to the poll a few days ago, the leading contender in this race, up by 11 points, with 24% of people undecided. So we're going to be going after those folks too between now, and we already are. I got folks phone banking right now because we don't take anything for granted in this race. We work as hard as we've been working from the beginning of this race when many people counted us out. When they didn't think that a kid like me, a black kid from Rockland County who didn't come from anything and had never held elected office, despite his other qualifications, which they still try to minimize right now, by the way. You know, it's like having a Harvard Law degree and working for Obama and working for the Westchester County Law Departments. And many of these folks are still not good enough. But I thank God for people like the New York Times editorial board, which endorsed my campaign a few Fridays ago, Bernie Sanders, AOC, Elizabeth Warren, Julian Castro. We've been endorsed by 3 former presidential candidates this cycle. And we are defying expectations every step of the way. And you guys mentioned, AJ, you mentioned young people. Shout out to young people who are the impetus. They are the driving force behind the organizational power that this campaign has. This is going to be a story of how young people largely stood up against the pharmaceutical industry, the defense industry, and the fossil fuel industry, and the IDC in the case of Mr. Carlucci, and defeated everybody and elected a champion for working people. And I'm so excited about what's going to happen on Tuesday. Of course, we may still have to be counting absentee ballots too, right? Because we know those won't be counted until July. But I hope to be up by the end of Tuesday night.
All right. Now we talk about not every candidate because they're running and because of the aftermath of the protest because of George Floyd. Every candidate is talking about criminal justice reform. What does that mean to you? And you spoke about being involved in that before it was a popular thing. Talk more about that, because that criminal justice reform is a very important thing to Black Westchester and a lot of our audience. So, and speak about, if elected, what some of the things you would like to do.
Absolutely. I'm really passionate about this. As you might imagine, as a Black man in America, when I was 19 years old, I chaired a committee on the National Board of Directors for the NAACP. When I was a senior at Stanford University and the Palo Alto police chief made comments that embraced racial profiling, I organized my classmates and we worked with adults in the Palo Alto community to get her to resign and to obtain policing reforms in that department. When I was a third-year law student at Harvard Law School, what did I do in my free time? I went into Roxbury and Dorchester and provided free legal representation to people facing criminal charges. My first client was a homeless guy who was being harassed by local law enforcement and inappropriately charged, frankly. How do you trespass when you're sitting on a public bench? Thank God for lawyers like myself, but it's really messed up the way people like me are over-policed, over-arrested, over-prosecuted, and over-sentenced for things that other people never get into trouble for. More recently, I've been on the board of the New York Civil Liberties Union, and just generally speaking, I've really centered racial justice in my campaign. And sometimes it doesn't have to be explicit to be an issue of racial justice, right? So I'm the only candidate supporting Medicare for all. Guess who disproportionately dies from COVID because of illnesses? Black and Hispanic people. I'm the candidate supporting student debt forgiveness. Guess who disproportionately has difficulty paying for college and is saddled by crippling student debt? I'm a candidate supporting a housing for all platform, this massive investment by the federal government, and also, by the way, clearing this long waiting list for Section 8 housing right now that we don't talk enough about. Guess who disproportionately has trouble paying for rent and mortgage in this country? So those are also what I would describe as anti-racist programs. And as we talk about criminal justice reform, I'm happy to talk about it, but then I want to talk about something else, because it's not just criminal justice reform and policing reform, it's systemic racism generally, which is in all aspects of our society. On the policing front, we have to make sure we do national standards. And we can do that by saying, well, if you're going to take federal funding, local law enforcement agency, you have to require officers to identify themselves. You cannot use a chokehold anymore. You have to engage in de-escalation tactics. We know that people are capable of doing that when the person arrested is white, right? Dylan Roof, after shooting up a church, got driven to Burger King on his way to the precinct. But you got, a bunch of folks who are unarmed, completely unable to pose any kind of threat, still having a life snuffed out of them over the course of 8 minutes and 46 seconds, if you're George Floyd. So there's that. We have to eliminate qualified immunity. The Supreme Court created, right? There was no statute that created this law that said that even if you violate the constitutional rights of civilians, you can still evade responsibility. So we have to get rid of qualified immunity. Criminal justice reform, generally, we have to end mass incarceration, invest in alternatives to incarceration. I don't believe in locking people up for using drugs, any kind of drugs. I don't believe in locking people up for that. Let's treat people. Let's also legalize cannabis. We can regulate it, but we got to legalize it.
Right.
Let's also eliminate mandatory minimums in sentencing so that judges have discretion on how to sentence somebody and can take into consideration the totality of a person's life circumstances. Let's end private prisons, and let's make sure that we are allowing people to re-enter society and reducing recidivism. What does that mean? It means if you're in prison or jail, let's give you job training, because we know that reduces the likelihood that you'll recommit those offenses. And let's stop erecting arbitrary barriers like preventing you from getting a Pell Grant or getting federally subsidized housing once you've served your time and you're just trying to be a good citizen.
Right.
As I've been saying at these rallies all over the district, in the most affluent places, in the most affluent, whitest places like Irvington, or in racially diverse, lower income areas like Portchester, it is this. Systemic racism, our concept of that has to be broad enough to include an economic system that concentrates 90% of the wealth in this country in white communities and only 5% in the Black and Hispanic communities. Systemic race, our understanding of systemic racism has to be broad enough to encompass a public school system that is largely funded by property taxes, resulting in the concentration of tens of billions more dollars in white communities and the deprivation of Black and Hispanic kids of critical educational opportunities. It's a healthcare system that conditions your ability to get necessary medical care on your ability to pay for it, which disproportionately harms Black and Hispanic people. So we have to be comprehensive in our understanding of systemic racism. It's not just the individual examples of police killings. That's not going to be enough.
Right. No, brother, you're on point. And this is the crazy thing about it, is that a lot of the police departments in the South and Midwest, East Coast, not a lot in New York. They're nationally certified, right? It's an organization called CALEA, right? And they certify police departments on national standards. But the problem is the problem is what we're seeing is that even though some of these police departments saying they at national standards, right? There really is still no oversight of those standards. You know, if those standards. No, there's only one police department in Westchester that is certified, and that's Scarsdale Police Department, right? So we've been trying to push for police departments, you know, even to get to that national standard, because Westchester County Department of Corrections is certified under the National Correctional Association, the ACA, which we have our national accreditation from. And the process is very tedious. You know, they come in, they go over all your policies, man. It's like a complete audit, you know, if you know of your policies, of your use of force policies, of all those policies, and yada 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 yada. They walk through. They even interview the inmates, like, how are y'all treated here? You know, so it's a whole thing, and it's the same with, and it's the same with CALEA. And I think one of the ways that is to have national standards. The United States is probably the only progressive country that don't really have national standards in law enforcement, which is crazy, right? Which is crazy. So, you know, having you down there fighting for that, you know, is a great thing, because that's what we need, man. And I mean, we need more voices. We need more voices from our community. We just need it. And brother, you hit everything on the head. How do we hit all levels of the system, because it's systematic, right? Racism is systematic, and it's embedded in our laws. And we need people strong enough, you know, to change it. You know, I say it all the time, man. I thank, you know, all our New York State elected officials for passing all these laws, you know, but, you know, I've been on the job for 30 years, 25 of those 30 years, we've been talking about an independent special prosecutor. You know, it's unfortunately, you know, that people have to burn down stuff for politicians to listen, you know.
I got 2 state legislators running against me right now who just co-sponsored repealing 58 within the past 2 weeks, when that legislation's been passed in 2019.
Exactly.
They had the nerve to say on Facebook today, oh, well, where was he in White Plains today? Like, I haven't been at every single other rally, and so your favorite candidate was at the rally, but he didn't co-sponsor repealing 58 until national protest. It took somebody's death that in a Twitter video that went viral. You know, people like the ceremony of it all, but they don't want to do the work, the actual work. I don't care if you're kneeling in kente cloth on if you're not prioritizing legislation and getting it passed and building a movement to enact that legislation that's going to materially improve the lives of Black people in this country.
That's right. No, you're absolutely right, man. You're absolutely right. And you know, the people that endorse you are powerful people that's down there trying to fight for change, man. And I think a lot of people have noticed in the last couple of weeks, you know, who's the person that we need down there to take Nita Lowey's seat. Also to make history, man. You know, also to make history here in the 17th district, man. You know, to have a Black man down there, brother, you know, speaking truth to power. Westchester and Rockland is not used to that.
No, I mean, I think it's why some of Westchester's Democratic establishment was, you know, has had low expectations first, but I think we have been proving them wrong every step of the way. And I don't mean to lump, by the way, everybody in that category. There've been plenty of folks very supportive of me. But you do see that the committee's had their favorite candidate. And well, the polling speaks for itself. And that's because people want to be inspired.
Right.
I'm not running to just be one of 435 people in Congress. I'm running to provide transformational leadership.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that you have to have had elected office. Largely, it means how much do you care, and what are your other skill sets that
right.
you.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. AJ, you got any questions?
And now what you just said, since I did all the interviews, one or two of the candidates did say that they are the only ones with experience in running government, and that's why they should be elected. I want you to elaborate more on that, since
Well, yeah. So what good is your experience if you voted against a housing bill that provided historic protections for tenants in 2019? If you didn't sign up co-sponsor repealing 50A until a few weeks ago, when it's been pending since January 2019, it's what I mean when I say I would rather have somebody for whom policy is personal than someone who has spent decades in Washington or a decade in Albany. Mr. Carlucci, to use another example of a state legislator, we well know spent most of his career caucusing with Republicans despite running and getting elected as a Democrat.
Absolutely.
So I would rather have leadership, like actual leadership, than and the votes to back it up, than to have someone who will simply check a box and by virtue of that feel entitled to a position. And again, I'm grateful to the people of New York's 17th Congressional District who are not taking their direction from some local Democrat who tells them who to vote for.
Right. Exactly. And we're seeing, and we're seeing a lot of the district leaders and a lot of in a lot of these committees, they're starting to have independent thinking, which is great. We got Mimi coming on, and a lot of people are thinking independently of the party, because they want that type of change. They want to see actual justice, man. And it comes through all, like, it kills me because I don't understand. I say all the time, I say, well, if the lawmakers tell me that they don't know what to do and they're the ones that's creating the law, right? If it's a bad law, right, then change the law. I mean, you change the law. In New York, we have no excuse to blame Republicans. We're the majority in almost every, in major Democratic cities, we are the majority. And hell, we got like I don't even think there's a Republican left on the county legislature. So, I mean,
I think there's one left. There were two, and one of them just changed his party to Democrat.
Right. So if you ever been to the county legislature, bro, like they separate the Republicans from the Democrats. So now you got like all these seats on one side, right? And you just got this one Republican sitting over here by himself. That's the craziest thing I ever saw in my life. But if you have a supermajority like that, I mean, there's no excuse. It's no excuse that we can't get these laws passed.
The Democrats passed. We wanted these Democrats in office. We have a Democratic governor on the state level. We have a Democrat controlling the state Senate and the Democratic Senate Majority Leader. We have the Democratic controlling the Assembly and a House, the Assembly Speaker for the Assembly. We have a Democratic county executive on the county level now, after two terms of Astorino. We have the majority rule in the county legislature. Like, Democrats, this is a dangerous thing too. Now you can't blame it on the Republicans that didn't go along with you. Now you control all facets of everything. What are you going to do with it now? Now you have to show and prove. Now that we put y'all there, you have to show and prove. That's,
I'm grateful for the opportunity in our politics. What is happening right now in the Democratic Party, where people are getting challenges, incumbents are getting challenged.
Mm-hmm.
When people are not entitled any longer, folks aren't just going to wait around for you to start doing the right thing. If they have what they believe to be better ideas, they are going to submit them to voters for consideration and let voters decide. And that is a beautiful thing that doesn't have to be scary. It is the democratic process.
Right.
The democratic process. And so I'm excited about it. I'm excited to be electing new leadership in 2020 all throughout New York State. There is something happening in New York. It started in 2018 with AOC and with defeating the IDC, Biaggi defeating Jeff Kline and others defeating, defeating state senators throughout the state. And I'm grateful to be part of the continuation of that movement of people, many of them young, many of them people of color who are not waiting their turn. Instead, they're offering voters a choice. And I'm so grateful that I've allowed my moral compass and my belief system to guide me instead of anyone who would try to sidetrack me.
No, and let me tell you, one thing I think from the beginning when we first met, and I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and he made a point that was real clear. It's like, listen, man, Mondaire started when it was hard. When Nita Lowey was still in the race, right? And you were pushing, your platform, and you were speaking truth to power when everybody thought Nita Lowey was still running. And I think, and that shows courage, because, she was the immovable object, right? And you decided to step up and say, you know what, it's time for change. And I'm going to put my platform out there. I'm going to show people who I am. And in that process, while you was doing that, and you were showing that, you're not scared of the system itself, and the entrenchedness of a personality, like Nita Lowey, and he was respectful. He wasn't disrespectful. And then when she dropped out, everybody came out the woodwork, and it's like, where were y'all when he was standing here? So you gotta have, you gotta show the respect, for what you was doing. And when I was having that conversation, and I was like, yo, man, you're right. I was like, yo, you're right. Like, this dude was out there speaking truth to power when it wasn't popular in the Democratic Party, when people thought that Nita Lowey was still running.
My opponents all saw me as the person in the race, the one person left over in the race, and they looked at it and they said, oh, I could take him on.
So we got a comment and a question from a listener, Evan, and I can't pronounce the last name, so I'll just say Evan M. Said, happy to vote for Mr. Jones. If you are able to ask him, what are his thoughts about trying to push progressive policy change to entrench middle-leaning Democrats?
Yeah, I think this is a great question, and before I answer, let me just say, if I feel like if I knew the answers, the complete answer to this question, the progressive movement would have gotten even further along than we are right now. But I do think we're gaining. I mean, Medicare for All is a mainstream idea right now. We're now a majority of the American people support it. Overwhelming majority of independents and Democrats support it. And nothing like a global pandemic to really nail home the point that everyone deserves healthcare in this country, and we're impacted even if we have health insurance and somebody doesn't. What my strategy for sort of articulating some of my views to centrist Democrats is to show how it impacts them negatively if we don't change things for the better, right? So, Medicare for All is the easy one from my perspective. If we're going without health care, they're pregnant to everybody else, right? COVID-19. If you're black and brown people dying from COVID-19, we'll support the only policy that would literally insure everybody in this country. And if you need more ammunition, your wages would go up if your employers didn't have to worry about spending so much money providing healthcare. If it was the government itself providing that healthcare, that is a fact that Medicare for All would save society $5 trillion over the next 10 years. And instead of your employer saying, well, I'm going to pay you less, but I'll give you great health care, the government can say, I'll give you great health care, and then your wages can go up from your employer after they pay sort of a flat fee. When it comes to something like student debt forgiveness, people are saying, well, I had to pay off my debt. Why is it that other people shouldn't have to figure it out on their own, right, without any support from the government? Well, if you're worried about your property taxes being so high, make the observation that Westchester and Rockland County is an extremely expensive place to live, and young people cannot afford to move here. Expand the tax base so you don't have to pay, so you don't have to show the burden that you're having. Is if we can start to eliminate the debt that is sort of crippling them and causing them to have to live at home with their parents and their grandparents instead of living out independently, owning a home, so that they can, there have been studies that show that there is tremendous economic benefit to forgiving student debt. It's been skyrocketing, even as as wages have remained stagnant over the past several decades. But I also think it's showing centrist people that progressives can win. Katie Porter is a progressive member of Congress who's now famous, and she flipped the seat from red to blue. And she says repeatedly that she won that race that used to be held by a Republican by running on Medicare for all. Everybody wants health care, and people think that other people deserve health care as well. So I think when you show people that progressives can win, as I'm doing in my own primary, then centrist people are more likely to accept progressive ideas instead of dismissing progressive candidates as not being able to win elections.
Another listener, Marvin Church, said to say hello, and to let you know that he's listening. But people that
Marvin's a really big support.
Oh, okay. For those who don't know, you want to know more about you, and want to take one last look at you after this interview. Social media, website, stuff like that, so people can check.
Oh, you forget that question. Marvin had a question.
You got to answer because I refreshed my screen and I lost it.
Oh, it says it's unfortunate that a candidate is trying to buy the election with using over $4.45 million. I guess he wants you to comment.
The New York Times published an article, for those of you who haven't seen it yet, a few days ago, saying, "Can the son of a billionaire spend his way to a New York House seat?" And my answer is nope. Mr. Schleifer has spent over now $4.5 million in his pharmaceutical industry inheritance. His father's a billionaire, to purchase this election. And when Evelyn Farkas called him out for it, he called her a snake. And he said that she had been spending so much time in the back rooms of Washington that she can't see through the fog. I was offended for him to talk about her like that. And also, all she was doing was telling the truth, which is that he was distorting the democratic process by spending unlimited sums of money and drowning out the messages of other people. I thank God that I've been able to fundraise the way that I have. Because if not, I worry that my message would have been drowned out.
Right.
I think it says something that even after spending so much money on television, starting as far out as March, when none of us could afford to be running television commercials back then, he is still, I'm still 11 points ahead of him after only going on air on TV on May 27th. So again, I thank God to the people of this district, New York 17th Congressional District, for evaluating the candidates, seeing who's what, and who actually cares about this district, who didn't just move back here and is just spending money because it's whatever, because he can afford it, when he could be eliminating poverty in Peekskill with that kind of money, where he's decided to locate his.
Exactly.
And I'm disappointed in the people who have allowed themselves to be bought off, frankly, who are so-called leaders of our community, who have endorsed them. Money is a powerful drug in our politics, and we desperately need campaign finance reform, and I'm going to be fighting for that. And this experience emboldens me further to do that when I get to
right. Exactly. We've seen it time and time again where people buy their way into elections, man, and it's crazy. Go ahead.
Well, that leads to another question that I've asked all the candidates, and I guess it's timely to ask again. What do you feel about the need for campaign finance reform? Because we've seen in elections on every level, even down to school trustee election in Mount Vernon, like, on every level, that candidates can grossly outspend other candidates, and sometimes good candidates can't compete, and we don't necessarily get the best person in the seat, but we got the person who could afford to do the most mailers, or the first, you know what I'm saying, they take the most ads out. And there were smaller people that were really good candidates that can't compete, and can't get their message out. And some people are calling for like campaign finance reform. So what do you feel on that, Hal?
Absolutely. There are two main proposals for campaign finance reform. Some people support a voucher system, which I support, and other people support a system of matching dollars. I'll support that too if that's the best that we can do. But I think ideally we'll do a voucher system. There's a bill called House Resolution 1. It passed the House, but it went to die in the Senate because, of course, Mitch McConnell presides over the Senate. He doesn't want to see any good legislation passed. That passed in January of 2019. And one of the features of House Resolution 1, H.R. 1, which was a democracy reform bill, which included things like automatic voter registration, independent commissions to draw congressional districts so they're not gerrymandered in the way that we see right now. But it also included a public financing system of matching dollars. The problem with matching dollars is that you still have to have, and so you're still excluding a lot of people in this society, poor people who tend to disproportionately be Black and Hispanic, who are saying, well, yeah, I got a little bit of money, but I'd rather spend that money on putting food on the table, or, or paying rent or something, or saving, instead of donating it to a campaign. So a voucher system is a set of dollars where the government gives every individual a set of dollars and says, you can donate this money to whichever candidates you please, you prefer. And so it's not like someone's going into your pocket and taking out money, and you're still able to participate in the process by advancing the interests of certain candidates by giving them money. So I think the voucher system, like what they have in Seattle, is ideal, but obviously a matching system is a big improvement upon what we currently have right now, and that would help more people who are lower income, who know what it's like to struggle in this economy, who understand that it's not just enough to get rid of Donald Trump in the way that my opponents.
So explain the matching system. Who matches what? Explain that.
Okay, so let's say, so one example of the matching system is, well, if a candidate raises $25 from someone in the district, then the government will match that by 6. So if you live in New York 17 congressional district, you give me $25. It's meant to encourage small dollar contributions, and to amplify people who don't have wealthy friends. So if your friends can only give you $25, we're going to match that by 6. We're going to times it by 6. So the government would say, okay, I'm going to give you, in that case, $150 because you got a $25 contribution. So it's a 6-to-1 matching system. It's just an example of it. And that way you're helping candidates who don't have friends who can give you $2,800, which is the maximum in a congressional primary. Maybe it's your grandmother, or maybe it's your neighbor in an apartment building who has $25 to spare. That money gets amplified, and it helps candidates who don't have wealthy networks be able to successfully run for office.
Okay. That's the person, Evan, who asked the question earlier, said he appreciates your answer and he appreciates the show. So going back to social media, website, how can people get in touch with you these last 2 days before the event?
Yeah. Please visit mondaireforcongress.com. That's MONDAIREFOR Congress.com. You can go to my Instagram. It's Mondaire for Congress. You can go to my Twitter account, which is just Mondaire Jones. And of course, you can email me at info@mondaireforcongress.com. We check that throughout the day. And I'm very grateful to those of you many of you have already been phone banking and texting. You can sign up to volunteer on the homepage, mondaireforcongress.com. And of course, you can make a contribution using the donate button at the top of the homepage, because it's hard to run against a billionaire.
Mondaire, what's your line number?
Oh, for the campaign office?
Yeah, no,
on the ballot.
On the ballot. What's your ballot?
Got it. So my name appears second. If you live in New York 17th district, so if this is Black Westchester, so if you live in someplace like Elmsford or White Plains or Peekskill or Ossining or Tarrytown or Dobbs Ferry or Port Chester, or Sleepy Hollow, any of those places and more in central and northern Westchester County, you will see my name second. It's after Catherine Parker. It's Catherine Parker, who's no longer in the race. She's endorsed my campaign.
Right.
Mondaire Jones, and then third is Adam Schleifert, and you got 5 other people on there.
Oh, so you're second on. So you're.
I'm second.
What line is it? What is the Democratic line? What is it? A.
A. Well, Democratic, yeah, probably A.
Hold up, you know what? I got my ballot right in front of me. I'm going to vote in person now, but yeah, it's A. Democratic A. Yeah.
So it's A what?
It's just a separate ballot. It's because it's 2 different pages.
It don't
No,
say.
it's like 2A, 3A. Does that have a number?
A2.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It's 2A. Sorry, it's 2A.
2A. That's it. That's all you got to know is go in there. That's all you got to know.
Look for my name, Mondaire Jones.
2A.
In case they swoop up the numbers or something. Yeah.
The stories I've been hearing about, the information people have been getting from.
Next thing you know, in the new printout, it'd be somebody else at 2A, right?
Just look for my name.
Now, you talked about that, and we joking. In Westchester, and I don't know if it was all over Westchester, I got a lot of calls about people's polling places moving. People like some of the members of our show, Lorraine Lopez and Dr. Bob Baskerville, both said they had a polling place they could walk to, and now their polling places on the other side of town. And several people complained that when they went to check their polling place on the state site, their polling place was the same, but on the Westchester Board of Election site, their polling place was different. And we had a Mount Vernonite, Elias Goodsite, Damon. Let me just tell you what his came to. His polling site said Mount Vernon, City Hall, 1 Wallace Avenue, Mount Kisco, New York.
I've heard that story.
He posted it on Facebook, like for real. So I understand they messed up on a lot of, they were supposed to remail them out or whatever. So, and another thing people are talking about, and even the president is throwing it out there just in case he loses, that the mail-in process is going to cause voter fraud, and all this other stuff. What do you say about that?
Yeah, and in Rockland County, just to add another story, I got a message from someone who says, well, my presidential ballot came, but my congressional ballot didn't come. So I reached out to the Board of Elections Commissioner in Rockland, and she said that with respect to 393 people, that mistake was made.
393 people.
Let me start by offering a solution in the immediate future. You can vote in person and override anything you do by mail. Okay, so if you voted for a terrible candidate, please go and vote in person. Now that you learn about me, if you feel like you didn't get your ballot, and just know that you can override it by going in person. Now you can go Tuesday, June 23rd. That will override anything you've done in the past in this election.
Wait. If you mailed in your vote already?
That's correct.
And you decided to change your mind, you can actually show up in person and vote?
And that will override your prior vote. I confirmed that with the Rockland County Board of Elections Commissioner. They're gonna when they do the absentee ballots, one of the reasons it's gonna take so long is because they're gonna cross-reference it, right? They're gonna say, well, this person requested an absentee ballot, but did they vote in person? And in the case where somebody did both, hopefully it doesn't happen, but in the case where somebody did do both, they're going to say, well, the voting in person controls.
Yeah, but you're in Rockland, man. We're in Westchester.
Yeah, I don't know if that's for the Westchester people. I'm not sure. I want to be careful about giving out information because I haven't confirmed that, and I've never heard that before. So
maybe that's what they do in Rockland. But under Reggie Lafayette, man, let me tell you, you'll never know, brother. I'm telling you, man.
How about this then? Before I get in trouble, just call the board of elections, please, and confirm. Before somebody try to sue me, call the Board of Elections and confirm that it's true that if you go in person, that overrides anything you do by mail.
But but what I'm saying is that makes common sense. But you never know in Westchester. That's all I'm saying, man. It makes common sense. It should override it
right.
if you're in person and you give the signature and you vote. But this place here, man, I mean, dude, like it's unfortunate. Like a lot of the elections I have written to the Southern District of New York, like you have to come in and monitor this. I'm serious. They know me very well. You know, you have to come and monitor because it's just, when I ran for city council, there were people that literally thought I won. And they were like, "You're kidding me?" like, how did you lose? Everybody was voting for you. Like literally. So I was just like, well, it is what it is. You know, it is what it is. But you just never, you can never trust the system here. And it's unfortunate, but you can never trust the system. And with other elections, I have written the U.S. Attorney to come in and monitor because we always felt here in Westchester that it was a conflict of interest that the city committee chair and the Westchester and the county chair and the commissioner of the Board of Elections all the same person. So so how the hell, who do you go to regress, right? Who do you go to solve? Who do you go to solve your problem, right? If they're all the same person, right? So that has always been our issue. And I was told that the state did pass that it was a conflict of interest, but I'm not sure if that law. I know there was a bill out there, but you never know here, bro. It is what it is, man. So,
is there anything? Is there anything? Mimi's signing in shortly. Is there any thing we haven't asked you that you want people to know? Any last words? Any message that you want to the people? Anything that you?
Yeah, just that most of you tuning in have probably heard about me, seen a commercial, gotten mail from me, or have heard about me through a friend. Please do give further consideration to my campaign. It is important that we use our vote strategically in this election. Okay, please take a look at the poll and see who's polling where. I have the best chance of winning this election, and I respectfully ask that if you want to see better representation in Congress, that you strategically vote for me in this election.
Everybody vote for Mondaire Jones, not because we got the same last name, just because he's a hell-of-a candidate and he's qualified to do the job.
Somebody just told me, oh, Damon's only voting for him, only endorsing him because that's his cousin. And I was like, I don't think they're related. I think he just likes him as a candidate.
But the rumor did get out there that we was related. Somebody started that crazy rumor. I don't know who it was.
Listen, you know who started it. You know whose family started it.
So, Mondaire, you're welcome to hang out with us, and we're going to switch over to our next candidate.
I'm gonna let Mimi do her thing because Mimi's incredible, and I'm gonna exit out, but I'll watch from I'll watch.
Okay, absolutely.
But